Well, Victor Oladipo and the Pacers might be the East's best kept secret. Winners of 9 of 11 sitting in 4th place tonight. Indiana plays host to the Sixers. Still awaiting word on Joel Embiid's status. This video from about an hour ago when Embiid was on the training table courtside. He's a game-time decision due to lower back tightness. Later tonight at OKC, the Thunder look to bounce back after getting beaten up by the Hawks on Tuesday. OKC home for the LeBron-less Lakers at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. We're getting you set for the TNT doubleheader. Welcome on into Game Time Live. He's Kenny the Jet Smith. I'm Jared Greenberg. In 30 minutes, TNT's Thursday night coverage begins with the Sixers and Pacers, followed by the Lakers and the Thunder. Kenny, LA 4-7 without LeBron James. Won't be with the team tonight. Also won't be with the team Saturday for the game in Houston. Now, it's just started what is a brutal stretch of games for the Lakers here, and really a pivotal one as we're in the second half of the season for the team currently sitting in 8th place in the Western Conference. Pardon me, 9th place in the West.
Yeah, I mean, anything in the West is difficult. I don't care if it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks from now, or 3 weeks prior. All of these games in the Western Conference matter. Teams are such in a cluster fighting for those 6th, 7th, and 8th spots, actually 5 through 8. So this could be dynamic in a bad way for the Los Angeles Lakers.
You're breaking your pen.
Yes.
Throwing it around.
Yes. So it could be dynamic. I mean, you know, you can't go on a 2 or 3 game losing streak in the Western Conference and expect to be in the playoffs. It's that close, and it's going to be that close all year. There's only one team that would say that would not make the playoffs in the Western Conference is Phoenix Suns. Everyone else can viably say if we go on a 5-game winning streak, we're in the playoffs.
Right. Lakers beat the Bulls by 7 the other night. They've had home losses to the likes of the Knicks and Cleveland.
I watched both of them.
So how do you evaluate how this young group has done without LeBron?
I mean, when you have greatness, to me, it's easier to play well. When you have greatness, you know, overachieving is what you define what players can do. When we looked at last year, Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz, they overachieved. You know, that dictates on what your future could be individually. But when you're playing with greatness, when you have a LeBron on the floor with you, you have a Anthony Davis, or you have Kevin Durant, or Klay Thompson, and things of that nature, and Steph Curry, that doesn't define how good you are. Mm-hmm. You know, that just defines how good they are. But this defines everyone from coaching staff to players, and it actually also gives us the management an opportunity to see, well, what guys will actually have the ability to play in any kind of situation. Because those are the guys who come to play and have the same rituals and same routines, the same work habits, and then produce the same way. Mm-hmm. You know, that dictates, and they produce into wins.
One quick note here while we're talking about the LeBron-less Lakers, and that's the late game against OKC. Before we get to OKC, just want to mention Serena Winters, the courtside reporter for the Philadelphia 76ers, is reporting that Joel Embiid will play tonight. So that's good news.
Well, usually when he's on the court in a uniform with grapes,
right,
laying on a couch on a table, that means he's usually playing.
Right. So Joel Embiid, dealing with back tightness, will indeed play tonight for the Sixers. That's the front half of the TNT doubleheader at 7 o'clock Eastern. Let's get into the Thunder, who is in the back half of the doubleheader against the Lakers, a team that's coming off of some surprising games lately. They are the best defense in basketball this year. And the other night against the Hawks, they gave up 142 points to what is the second worst offense in basketball.
Yeah, well, this team has been consistent, though. You know, you're going to have an instance where things aren't typical of who you are. You know, even the best drivers have an accident, so to speak. But I think
is that statistically true of you?
I would agree. I think that everyone's had a fender bender, even the best drivers. But what happens is that's not consistent of who you are, and I think that what the injuries to the front line when New Orleans went out, that changed the rotation a little bit and got them off track slightly. When they have their whole unit together, they're athletic, they defend, and they challenge. They don't block every shot, but they challenge every shot because they know that they're not a great three-point shooting team. Right. So in terms, the game does get shortened, and they don't take as many shots as typically as a Golden State. They don't take as many shots, early in the shot clock as other teams that are fighting for, the top of the West. So they are, to me, the most unique. They're a 90s basketball team.
Interesting.
They play like they're in the 90s, and that still wins.
Right now, the Thunder in the third spot in the East, and you mentioned Nerlens Noel, who had that really scary, not only contact to the head, but then the fall. He's cleared to play for tonight.
Yeah, and that's the difference, because when I've said this over the years, and you're kind of a newbie, so you might not have heard it, but you think about, you're a newbie with me. So, but
I think it's your third straight year doing this.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think when, let's say, your best two guard is out, and then all of a sudden your best small forward then plays some two guard, your best power forward kind of moves into the small forwards. Everyone's just off. Doesn't mean that they can't handle it for a while, but everyone's off. When he's coming off, he's their best big coming off that bench that creates that style of play, like you said, of defending the rim, slowing the game down, making sure that we get touches. Because even you think of him on the offensive end, you don't think that, wow, Nerlens Noel is going to be such a difference. Nolan's going to be such a difference. But when he catches the ball at the high post, he's not looking for a three. He waits. So that's 2 or 3 seconds he holds the ball. He finds the guard. Then he comes and sets the pick. Then that's 4 or 5 extra seconds in a possession that you take because he's on the floor. That changes the way you play now. And he's a guy who makes them play in a certain style. He helps that style. So having him back is going to be big.
The Thunder look forward to getting those 13 minutes per game back tonight from Nerlens Noel. Meanwhile, James Harden playing a ton of minutes, more than anybody in the NBA. Did it again last night. Back-to-back 50-point, that's just 50 points, plus 55-point games. Unbelievable. Harden, over his last 18 games, averaging more than 40 points. He's got 18 consecutive games scoring at least 30 points. Kenny, can you put into perspective just what Harden's doing right now in the NBA in terms of his offensive game?
Very Kobe-like. This was what Kobe was doing a lot, throughout his career. And what Kobe did actually with D'Antoni, that before he had his Achilles rupture. So, we just hope that he's not being overused.
Is that a concern for you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the NBA, without question. You can't run a marathon. Marathon runners only run a marathon once. They take a month off, 2 months, and then they run again. You can't continually run a marathon every day the way James Harden is doing and be productive. It's just physically, too taxing. No matter how much you stay out of practice, how much you stay, because then you don't be sharp. You're not as sharp, and all of those things. And the preparation, people forget the preparation for a game, for most people, would be a workout. Stretching, you're getting your shots up, you're defending, you're loosening up. Like, that's a workout for the average American person or person around the world. That is the warm-up for an NBA player. So you do that over 82 games and you put in 42 minutes on it. And then the stress of creating double teams and beating double teams. It's different when even a Klay Thompson, if he was in a stretch like this, he's not creating the double team. The double team is usually created by, Durant or Steph Curry. So now he's allowed to shoot the basketball, where James Harden is creating the basketball, creating the double team and beating it. That is, I think it's too much for one person to do over this long of time, and I think it does wear you out. I think it does make you an easier defended team in the long run. Teams start to learn how to defend you easier when you have the ball in your hand more. They say, oh, well, that's worked. Now let's work. And this starts to wear him out. Yes, he's going to have tremendous numbers, because if you look at, again, you look at Kevin Durant, you look at Steph Curry, and you say, well, what would they average if they played 42 minutes a night? Those numbers would be probably close to 40 points a game as well, because they just don't stay on the floor that long. No one's going to keep them on the floor that long, and so they're not productive for the whole season.
Yeah, no question. It's been very taxing on Harden, and they lost that game last night where he scored 58. All right, we'll talk much more with Kenny Smith. Plus, we'll be joined by the big fella.
And if Shaquille O'Neal played 40 minutes in this era right now, he would average 45, 40 points.
50, I think he said. I think he said he'd average 50.
Come here.
Diesel Tunks next, live on Game Time.
Code 145, 142.
Wow.
Woo.
Defense.
Defense optional. Defense was optional in this one.
Unbelievable. The Rockets set an NBA record by attempting 70 3-point shots tonight.
Are you serious?
Wow. 70. They were 23 of 70 along the way.
That's a big
Harden with back-to-back 50 points. That broke their own record, by the way. Harden goes for 50 for the 13th time in his career. He passed LeBron James for most among active players along the way. He's also the first to put together back-to-back 55-point games since Wilt Chamberlain back in 1962. These numbers are mind-bending. Hard to wrap your brain around. But the Nets come away with the win. Here's Spencer Dinwiddie.
Honest with you, they hit 5 big threes that we were on them. They made some unbelievable shots. I thought when we got up 13, we got a little complacent, and they scored too quickly, too fast, and you know, that was regrettable. But at that, you know, we're up 7 with about 40 seconds, and there's 1, 2, 3. I think 3 threes they were hit, they were covered, and they hit them, and you know, hey, tip your hat to them, and hey, let's go to the next one.
We're going to get to Harden's exploits here in a moment. I want to talk about the Brooklyn Nets, who now have a 5-game winning streak against the Western Conference, by the way, and are at 500 for the first time since November 9th. They are one of the great stories of this, well, not that young, now halfway through the NBA season so far. And they play these incredible games. That experience is starting to show up as the season gets deeper and deeper because they were, you know, a little bit of a, not a laughingstock, but it was kind of a joke at the beginning of the season. Oh, the Nets are going to blow a lead. You know, something terrible is going to happen. Now they're winning these games.
They are winning these games, and really I think the foundation was set the last few years. Kenny Atkinson inherited this team, didn't have a lot, but they always played hard, Brendan. They always competed. They just didn't know how to win games down the stretch, and we saw that a little bit earlier in the season. But they lost Karis LeVert. We all saw that, who was their best player at the time. But these players now are believing. They're playing great basketball. And you talk about late game heroics, you know, being able to take and make big shots. Dinwiddie just elevating his play, the belief that they have in each other, and of course when someone gets hot, finding that hot hand and riding him to the finish.
Dinwiddie is an unbelievable story. You know, Brendan, he's been cut, he was sent to the G League, he's been traded, and now he's a go-to guy at the end of games for this team.
Well, he's one of those guys that just perseveres. He won't give up. I mean, I remember him in Detroit, and he was trying to find his way, and it was a little bit up and down with his minutes and being in and out of the rotation. And then he just kept grinding, went to Brooklyn, found his home, and then he obviously has put in the work. You don't get this good overnight, so this wasn't something that happened just by happenstance. He put in the work, continued to get better, continued to persevere. Now he's found a home. He's making big-time plays for these upstart Brooklyn Nets, and they're doing some big things in the Eastern Conference. Don't be surprised if they make it to the playoffs and win a series. We know they're probably going to make it, but they can actually win a series because, like you said, talking about Karis LeVert, they're going to get him back at some point this year. They're going to be better when he's on this roster.
Also took advantage of a smallish Houston lineup tonight. No Clint Capella. They scored 74 in the paint. That's a season high for the Brooklyn Nets. As for Harden, back-to-back, not just 50, but 55-plus point games for him, 18 in a row now with 30 or more. And I wonder, and I'm not the first to ask this, but the load that is placed on him night after night, how long can he continue this, that sort of responsibility?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, he's 40% usage rate. He's on track to be the second highest in NBA history. You know, what he has done here these last 6 weeks have just been off the charts. And, you know, they're going to need him to continue to play that way. That's the thing that's scary. And you know, I just worry. I worry, can he maintain that consistently? And then, of course, into the postseason, playing and putting up those type of numbers. But that's elite company that he's in right now when you start talking about some of those greats. And you know what? He's been elite the last 6-8 weeks.
Definitely is elite company. You asked the question, how long can he keep it up? The answer is he doesn't really have a choice. He has to keep it up. When you look at the rest of this roster, and Eric Gordon came back and went out of this lineup with the sore knee, P.J. Tucker, Clark, Rivers, Green, Chris, Nene. There's nobody else on this roster that can consistently create shots for themselves or others. So Houston's going to have to ride Harden until the wheels fall off. I'm hoping the wheels don't fall off, but they have no choice. They have one game plan and one way to win basketball games until Chris Paul and Eric Gordon are able to both be out there and be healthy and play up to their level. Right now it's Harden. He's a one-man band doing what he has to do, and he has drugged this team kicking and screaming back into the Western Conference playoff race. I know they lost tonight, but listen, what he's been doing this last stretch of games has been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, no, Brendan, just to your point, the stamina required to go out and have that kind of responsibility. But the thing that's impressive, which makes me kind of think that he can continue with it, even with all of that, is just the efficiency and how under control. It's not a hard 30 or a hard 40. It's almost effortless.
You don't think
for
it's a
him.
hard 30?
Well, I mean, I'm saying, but the way he plays. No.
dribbling.
I know it's a lot of dribbling. 34 shots, a lot of shots.
58 points on 34 shots is efficient.
But it's not
really
it's
efficient.
not like Allen Iverson, who was going to the hole every time and getting hit and having to exert so much energy. He plays at a nice tempo, nice pace. I'm not trying to minimize his accomplishment, but it just seems he's so effortless and he's doing whatever he wants out there. And so I think that bodes well for him in terms of having to try to do this and live up to this every game for the rest of the season.
It's remarkable, and you make a good point. Maybe this is why he's able to continually do this night after night. And this is not a knock, you very seldom see James Harden at a full sprint. He plays at his own pace, as you said. He gets where he needs to go. He gets to the foul line a ton, 23 times tonight. Maybe that has something to do with the way or why he can sustain this.
He might not be in a full sprint, but this is where we kind of disagree slightly, is that I still think it's a hard 30 or a hard 50 simply because it's so much dribbling. You were a go-to guy, and you know how hard it is to get your shot when you're the go-to guy. But every once in a while, you could throw that thing over to Joe Dumars or somebody else and be like, hey, man, it's your turn.
Right.
Well, listen, every time James throws it, they throw it right back like it's hot potato. And for good reason. You don't want Nene out there creating his own shot. So when you look out there and look at this team, I see an incredibly, it's efficient.
Right.
But I see a hard 58, a hard 57 because no one's creating any shots for him. It's not like when you see Klay Thompson get off for his 50s and 60s where they're creating shots and he doesn't have to dribble.
Barely touches the ball.
No, James has to hit incredibly tough shots. It's tough step backs with people draped on you. It's trying to split the trap. It's doing the Euros all throughout the lane with everybody trying to block your shot. Then he goes to the free throw line a lot, so that's taking a taxing on your body. He's going to the free throw line double-digit times a game. So James is putting on a performance. I love it, but I do think it is stressful on him because it's so much to do every single possession.
Yep. Fourth 50-point game of the season for James Harden. The Rockets have won 14 of 19 even with the loss. Mentioned earlier the duel between Kawhi Leonard and Kyrie